We are on lunch break on day 15 of the Undercover Policing Inquiry, Tranche 3, Phase 1. We've been listening to the live evidence of Alex Owolade, who was an activist with Movement for Justice. Hopefully, I've had problems with the microphone. I'm now using my phone as a mic. That should work. Can people let me know? Apologies for all the technical difficulties that always seem to happen. We are getting there. I'm joined with Donal O'Driscoll from the Undercover Research Group. Donal, what have you thought of what we've heard from Alex?
It's more powerful stuff. We're seeing a lot of the same sort of questions. It's like, oh, are you violent? Your slogan was by any means necessary. It was movement for justice. Surely that means violence. By the way, SDS's motto was also that. There's a lot more focus on the stuff around the Lawrence family in this session. The role that Movement for Justice was playing around the Macpherson inquiry, and a lot of this. Oh, the headline point seems to be that Movement for Justice wasn't liked by the Lawrences, or there's some sort of division, some sort of infighting going. So let's focus on that. And it's like, what's this got to do with anything? And he's gotten away, and he said this in the morning session. There's a lot of the sensationalism going on. There's a lot of this sort of like, focusing on this. When actually, the reality on the ground is they were going to the public meetings. They were still going to the public meetings. They were doing the demos. They had differences in tactics. And, well, you would expect that. Every group's different. They want to organize a national march. So they organized a national march. We hear a lot about, the fact that, they were facing danger from fascists, but they were still going out and doing stuff. This doesn't mean they were violent.
Yeah, just go back to that thing about the division, because this has been such a hallmark of so many of the reports by undercover officers, really like seeking to sort of like exacerbate differences that exist within groups and try and make things out to be often a lot more serious than they actually were. He's quite clear that, there's a lot made in the reports about the differences of opinion between Movement for Justice and like the monitoring group. And like, Alex Owolade was quite clear. He's like, well, yeah, we were different organisations with different goals, different politics, and that doesn't mean that there was some big division between the Stephen Lawrence campaign. It certainly didn't mean that we were trying to take over the Stephen Lawrence family campaign. It was a family campaign at the end of the day. That wouldn't have been possible.
Yeah, and I think this is something you hear all the way through the SDS. Is we needed to protect these family campaigns and the justice campaigns, not from the police who were killing or not murdering, but from the left-wing groups. And the left-wing groups going, oh, what? Yeah, we weren't trying to take over. We were there to support. They were coming from the same communities. It's one of the nice things seeing Alex evidence. He's like, he is part of those communities. It was community defense. It mirrored what Dan Gilman and Lewis and Austin and Hansel were saying. It's like this was communities reacting and working out how to organize among themselves, and the police were having to stick their oar in to say that they were somehow protecting them. He's very nice and calmly just demolishing that set of arguments, and it's just like Macpherson was also about the wider community. They had an interest, and then the inquiry was HN81 Dave Hagan interfering, or things like he remembers him. He was a bit of a nonentity in the event. He turned up. Other than the weird situation with the fascists.
Yeah, that was quite interesting. I mean, this was one of the events that precipitated Dave Hagan's leaving of Movement for Justice. Apparently, after some march and protest against the fascists, a group of Movement for Justice members and supporters moved off and walked through a housing estate. They were confronted by a couple of fascists who were separate. In the end, the fascists backed down, but apparently Dave Hagan was like, we should go after them, we should attack them. And Alex was like, well, no, I think we're going to withdraw from the area. We don't know what else we're going to have to deal with. And Dave Hagan called him a coward. And at the next meeting was like very angry about this. And like it sort of prefigured him leaving the group. And he was saying, Alex said it was quite strange. This wasn't sort of typical for Dave Hagan. It seems like he was like trying to find ways of leaving. But also this thing of like making himself out to be much more of a confrontational character than he actually was.
Yeah, and his actions there are not uncommon. We heard earlier like Carl O'Neary going, "Let's go burn down this supposedly fascist charity shop." It was just like out of the blue. And it'll come up, with other undercovers, and it's like this subtle testing of people. It really is just about testing who's up for it, but also I suspect to justify their ongoing deployment. It's like you're going, well, these people are just organizing national marches, these girl stewards, it's like, what are you doing reporting on them? It's like he's reporting on the group that's calling for police accountability. And then before we've had this situation where it's like, well, yes, we're reporting on them, but it's only incidental. But with Movement for Justice, it's much, much more move into actually reporting on groups calling for police accountability. He has to find a way to justify this, because when it comes out, it's going to be major problematic for the police, because he's being deployed directly against that group. This is really, really troubling for anybody, particularly from police perspective. So he has to find evidence that of public disorder, or generated or created himself, in order for the police themselves to be able to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like I mean, it's the same thing we're seeing from so many of the undercover officers. Like kind of going into groups and then like trying to find something that they can exaggerate or build up or claim is much more of a public threat than actually is. We were shown a bunch of other reports about the behavior of Alex Owolade in stewarding meetings, and like he commented, I think very well, like kind of he just, rather than like going through this sort of point by point thing about like, this suggests you're being violent here, or this suggests you're being violent there, or subversive here or there. At the very beginning of this morning, he gave us he's a planned statement where he said that he wouldn't be doing that. He just referring to in his early statement that they weren't violent. The state was the one that was violent. I think he did a very good job of refuting the things as they went along, without getting caught into the mire of it, getting caught in the weeds. There was one section where they brought up the Movement for Justice pledge, which seems an incredibly long document. But like one section of it is that refusing to condemn youth riots. Because they stood with Dr. Martin Luther King, and that riot is the language of those who will not be heard. And I think he did a very good job of like saying yes, absolutely, and refused to, like, he turned a lot of the questions on his head. I think that's really something which future witnesses will do well to heed.
Yeah, and I think it was really nice to hear him to censor that sort of class struggles. It's like people just don't, it's a very right-wing trope to say that people just riot for the sake of it, particularly people of color, and and you just turn on the head. It's like this is an issue of people not being heard. This is a case of people being mistreated, particularly by the police, saying enough is enough, and you have to see it in that context and not the context of the Sun newspaper. And and for anybody who's coming in and saying, "But this means it's." That's a right-wing thing. It's like that actually says more about your position than centering. Well, asking the basic question: why did people feel they needed to kick off like that? And he's been really great all the way through to actually center it within the struggle of ordinary people. And say people didn't do this because were getting kicks out of joy out of it. It's because this was their daily life, and it's really nice to see that being pulled back in the inquiry, be rerouted. I think he's done a nice job of that.
Yeah, I mean, it particularly came up with the "Don't Walk By" campaign, which was a campaign initiated by Movement for Justice against the police policy of stop and search, particularly in majority black areas. And he was like pulled up on some of the language that was used in the police reports about a meeting about that, sort of claiming that this was a call to violence, and he would just turn the tables on it and was like, look, no, it was the police being violent, harassing people on the street. We were encouraging the community to come together to resist harassment, and like this was important. He was very unapologetic for that, and there was like, well, but you're advocating to physically get in the way, and it's like, well, we're physically there. I mean, there's like kind of euphemism we've heard so many times. We've heard about like the term militant, and then we hear about the term physically. Like, it's almost like once again the inquiry lawyers are trying to catch out witnesses. They're secretly violent.
Yeah, and it's very much about catching them out. And it's just like, how do you hold the police accountable? By being there to witness. The goal goes back to the Panthers did this. The groups have done this. It's just like, if you were there to witness them, to record them, to ignite things, they don't act as violently. Police get away with violence because they do it so much in secret. They're back in the custody stations, then back alleys, you know. But if you were there witnessing it, they know they can't do it. And we know that so much disturbance have happened because of police violence, because of police's own behavior. And so but just going back to my earlier point, they're specifically campaigning around police abuses. And what's the police response? To send a spy in. You know, this is not about the police going, oh yeah, we got a few bad apples, we need to root them out. It's like, no, we like being violent, as the Earl's Court Station event showed, and we want to continue getting away with it. And let's remember, how many of these things kill people? Oh, would that be Southall? That was the police killing somebody. Red Line Square. Oh, that was the police killing somebody. You know, racist murders. Oh, we'll not investigate them. That's the police. It's like, okay. The morality is not on the side of the police. And for the inquiry to go down this line of constantly questioning, pushing, is kind of offensive and missing the point.
Very much is missing the point. And sitting there listening to this repeated questioning, particularly day after day, as I do, as well, both of us do, it does grate somewhat, doesn't it?
It's hard, and you feel like, okay, we've got all these witnesses lined up. There's no sort of, okay, this witness has given us this bit of ground. Let's go and say we must rehash the same ground over and over again. And also thinking, where's all this coming from? Is because you just sat and read police documents all the time, and your perception, your perspective is that of the police. And what we have been saying for years and years, the police have got an ideological problem. They are racist, they are sexist, they are anti-democratic. If you're going to rely on their documents, you're going to come away with that mindset, and you have to be really aware of that. And I'm not watching; we're not really seeing it from a lot of the questionings, and also not properly listening and taking forward. You know, it's like there's a narrative here, but you're missing the narrative by continually having to step backwards.
Yeah, absolutely. There will be more from Alex this afternoon. He will continue to be questions for the rest of the day. I'm not sure what else we're going to be getting on to altogether, but should be interesting. Anything else you want to add about Alex?
Yeah, just that he brings yet another part of the story to life, and yes, definitely well worth watching his evidence. Just the power of just how groups we really haven't heard from so far are now starting to get a bit of a voice.
Yeah, absolutely. Hope the volumes worked okay. The sound it's much more noisy here than it normally is. The inquiry started to get a lot busier. I think I expect that to increase over the next few hearings. We'll be having Suresh Grover tomorrow. On Thursday it'll be Baroness Doreen Lawrence. So expect bigger crowds. If you're able to come down, please do. If not, all of it will be broadcast on YouTube. Okay, thanks for joining, and see you at the afternoon break. Bye for now.